Dawn Foundation welcomes you all for this lecture series on world culture and heritage. The lecture number 35 on the topic Indian culture abroad, which is going to be delivered by ex Professor of Art History Dr. R. Venkatraman of Madurai Kamarajar University.
Friends, good evening to all of you. And today we are going to see the impact of Indian culture on America through Ralph Waldo Emerson, who needs no introduction in the academic circle. A man who has shaped the character, the intellectual character and climate of America was he. He created a great stir in the sense that a movement was started by him. It goes by the name Transcendentalism. Well, our experience is confined to what's known as the phenomenal world. In the phenomenal world, we understand things. Our life starts with certain urges and aspirations and our certain reactions to the external world. We want to understand the external world through the five senses, and we are applying our reason. Well, all created beings, they had, including man at the early stage, what's known as instinct. Instinct is something inbuilt in all living beings. As earlier, I have, in one of my lectures here, I have made a mention, and not only mention, an example also about this instinct. All of us were governed by instinct. Instinct is more reliable than intellect. Some people, they become very, very successful business people, not only through their intellect but through their instinct. They come to certain conclusion which is right. The whole world will be those who are very highly intellectual. They will say, how is it that you are entering into that? But they have certain instinct. They are always successful in their avocations. Well, all the creatures now, for example, the tortoise, at the time of the season, it lays the eggs on the shore, digs, puts it, and comes out. After some time, they hatch. And at the moment the turtles come out of that, they automatically go through the sea and start swimming. Why for that time? But we are more familiar than this tortoise with the spider. The spider lays its eggs and select one and put it somewhere, allow it to hatch, and the young one of a spider will come. As soon as it is out of that egg, naturally it takes to the wall, goes up, goes to the corner, and starts building hexagonal, what is called the web. And it is geometrically very astounding for us. Where did it learn? It didn't go to any college. Fortunately, it did not listen to Venkatraman. Therefore, they explain. It applies that and the things. So the so-called education is blunting that. On the other hand, we are substituting with something we call intellect. Intellect has its limitation because it has to depend upon the five senses. There are creatures which are unique sense. Only one sense they have. They can only eat, they cannot see, hear. Some of them have two senses, some have three, some have four, some five. We have the sixth sense. And about this, very detailed exposition have been given by the Jainas. They rejected the concept of a creator God. For them, the world is existent. All matter is self-existent, not created by. If you say God created, if you say, they will ask, who created God? There must be something. Therefore, logically, they are very sound, intellectually very sound. Therefore, they cannot go beyond that. That's one of the reasons why Jainism had to stop with something. They could not go beyond. But this instinct, man was able to tell the time. Early in the morning by 5:30, he has to get up, means he will get up. Gandhiji had it. Gandhiji, if he wants to get up at a particular time, he will stop everybody talking, he will say, I am going to sleep. Half an hour, I am going to sleep. Sharp half an hour, at the end of the half an hour, he will wake up. So some people had that faculty, well, and later this senses, are there only the sixth sense? Can't there be a seventh, eighth, ninth? Now what they say now, only 10% of the faculty is being cerebral faculty is used by man. Recently you might have seen a film called The Lucy. How many of you have seen that Lucy? Yeah, it's good. And that Lucy, we have to think about the origin of the question comes from India. The capacity of the cerebral capacity. Does it confine it to only this intellectual world field, or can it go beyond? It can go beyond. They have proved it by yoga and other things. They have their origin in India. And that began to spread to the West, especially the States, through Ralph Waldo Emerson. So first of all, you have this what is not instinct, now intellect, depending upon logic. Logic has its own limitation. And Immanuel Kant has written two books about the reason. Two volumes. One is about the practical reason and the limitation of the reason he has written about it. And sometimes our senses are not dependable. You are depending upon your sense, but sense becomes while I am suffering from certain disease, I can see many figures and all that. My eyes are not. A man drunk, he can see there are only 20. If I am drunk, I can see 40 and be happy. Okay. The hall is very full. Okay. And John is eyed. He sees everything yellow. Therefore, this is called epistemology. In India, this epistemology has been taken by all the thinkers as essential. How far these senses upon which our intellect is depending is dependable. It is not that much dependable. Therefore, they wanted to go beyond. And it is possible they proved, and that is called what is known as intuition. So you have three levels. One is that instinct, then intellect, then intuition. Intuition is 1,000 times more valuable than instinct. Now man, what he has lost by means of that, what you call that instinct, he can regain it in a new form, which is called instinct, intuition. That intuitiveness is very essential. And India applied this intuition to find the divine presence, the nature. They went to nature and they found in one of our lectures earlier we have seen how the whole phenomenal world and the birds, the gestation period, the way they bring the chick, the way they build the nest, all these things are there, and for that matter, they are built in their mental structure. Not only that, there is some such thing called the cosmic intelligence. We are all governed by that. We think we are governed by our own intellect. No. The cosmic intelligence is operating on us. While I am sleeping, still my heart is beating. I am not aware of that. Understand? In the womb of the child, the mother, the child is growing. It is being taken care of it during the growth, the gestation period when it has to come. And all these things have been designed and operated upon by some force. That force, what is it? They began to think about very deeply. That has happened all over India, from Kashmir to Kashmir, from Gujarat to this side to Assam. All the people were very much concerned with that, and they have given expression to that, either poetically or philosophically. The poetic expression comes from South India, and repeatedly we have been saying about that. What do you call that? Agathinai. Agathinai is one of the greatest gifts of Tamil Nadu to the entire Indian country. And the Bhakti movement, how much it owes to this Agatya, that also we have said it. And the philosophy, when they borrowed from the north, especially from the Buddhists and the Jainas, they applied their yardstick called this Agatya, and they come to a conclusion about the presence of God. And here, this Vedanta has its origin somewhere in north, but it attains its fruition, its fullness in South India. So the interaction between north and south has been always there. Then it has been very well expressed in Buddhism and Jainism and north. The Jainas came to the south, interacted with these people, and they learned quite a lot from the Tamil, contributed to the enrichment of the Tamil grammar as well as literature. Okay, and who gained by their coming here? Both of them. In all these interactions, both the parties gain. There is no gainer and no loser. That is how India has developed. A type of Vedanta came into being. In the Vedanta, they say Advaita or Advaita. Advaita, they say this world is of dichotomy. Everything is dichotomy. It's very easy. Yeah, they call man, woman. Okay. East, west, day, night, waking stage, sleeping stage. All these dichotomical is there, we are governed by that. There is a stage where you can transcend them. That's called a transcendentalism. You can, and Tungamal Tungi Chukam Perumnal Yennalo, Siddhar's part. Tungamal Tungi Chukam Perumnal Yennalo. And the volumes have been written about what is that Tungamal Tunga. Probably my students in the class used to sleep with open eyes. When I was teaching the students of BA, they were asleep. I used to tell them, you are sleeping now. Oh, all right, sir. After some time, they developed the faculty of sleeping with open eyes. They were all staring at me. I was so much happy that they are listening to me. They know once I was walking this way and that way, but wherever I am, they will be focused there. They are sleeping. I found out. I say, you are sleeping with open eyes. Because I found out that I am walking. So, all right, sir. After some time, they developed the further faculty. Wherever I go, they will be looking at it but still sleeping. Probably that was they were very blissful. I am also. I got my salary and then they got their degree. So, without listening to me, probably. That's good thing. So we're all very happy. Now, here in India, these sages, especially the contribution to approach the ultimate reality, what happens to their soul? Is their soul? There have been philosophers in India called the Charuvakas. They denied the soul. Therefore, they denied God. You consider God as a super soul. We are questioning your very soul. Where is the God? So they were the earliest atheists, and they have been given very great regard, not only in the Vedas but also in the Ramayana. India is a country where different, that is pluralistic views of or approaches to the reality, each one will come to a conclusion, but other man's conclusion was respectfully heard, and they internalized that. The interaction brought about a new splendors, and there was no intolerance at all. The early India, that is to say, the India of the past, I am not meaning the India of today, it is very intolerant here. And that intolerance has there, in Tamil Nadu even we had that intolerance. About between the Saivites and the Vaishnavites, what an amount of intolerance. Fortunately for us, people like Taivanavar and people like Arunagirinatha Swamigal and Valladar, they came and that, what you call, hatred came here. They put an end to that. Otherwise, in the name of religion, because we borrowed something and we hold that, that is the only truth. My truth is the ultimate truth. If you say there is no growth, still we are in the process of growing. We have not yet reached the finality. But a few people, they were highly advanced, they have come out with that, their exposition. And in the Vedanta, especially in the Advaita Vedanta, if I read a passage from that, you will say, oh, has it been written by some DK man? It's a Dravida Kadakam word, and that will be like that. And if you excuse me, I will read one as I go. மனிதனே மனதும் இல்லை புத்தியும் இல்லை சித்தம் இல்லை காயம் இல்லை கர்மம் இல்லை கர்த்தா இல்லை. கர்த்தா மீன்ஸ் கிரியேட்டர் காட். கர்த்தா இல்லை. காண்கின்ற பொறிகள் இல்லை, புலன்கள் இல்லை, அயனும் இல்லை, அறியும் இல்லை, சிவனும் இல்லை. ஏய பொருள்கள் எவையும் இல்லை. இன்று எல்லாம் கடைசியில் ஏக பரிபூர்ணமா பிரம்ம ரூபம் என்று பேசாததுக்கு சும்மா இது சொல்லற என்றதுமே அம்மா பொருள் ஒன்று அறிந்தில்லை. So they say the moment the more and more you are thinking, you are going the wrong. Silence, you have to bring about an inner silence, and there are two ways of looking at it. Everything is denied by, there is a book called Ribukita. The Ribukita, the followers of Ribukita, that's Advaita work. They don't accept the Bhagavad Gita. Because there is a Bhagavan who says, I am the creator. Everything is I sustain and all that. This they totally reject. And Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi appreciated that Ribukita very much. Understand? So, and but the way of Bhagavad Gita also speaks about Vedanta. And there, it is Krishna, whom we call Lord Krishna, very mischievous fellow. Very mischievous fellow. You know what he was. As a child, he was mischievous. As a lad, he was more mischievous. Okay, but we love calling him mischievous. It is the lovingness that makes us call him openly. Oh, you are a mischievous fellow, sir. We can say. But he was an integral vision. He introduces an integral vision in India, because already I think many of you will be aware that the so-called gods we have in the Hinduism, they are all a product of a process called syncretism. For example, Krishna, if you take that Krishna, 6 Krishnas have been combined into one Krishna. That one final Krishna we see that in Bhagavad Gita. And the child Krishna about whom Bhagavata speaks is different. And in Mahabharata, the statesman Krishna is different. And the one who is supposed to have said Bhagavad Gita, he is highly philosophical. Similarly, in the case of Shiva also, 6 different deities have been combined together, and we arrived on Shiva. We don't go to the roots. One of the roots, he is Madaswami of Tamil Nadu, and the Bhairava of Nepal, and what we call Rudra of Vedas, Rigveda, so many others. The Linga worship, that is to say, the worship of the departed souls. For them you have the Nadugal. The Nadugal becomes the Linga. The Nadugal, to propitiate the departed souls, you don't have that. All throughout India, that hero stones have been there. That hero stone becomes the Linga. We pour all these ideas into it. And yet, we have hundreds of divine gods have been brought down to some 3 or 4 major gods. And then in Bhagavad Gita, he says, and he wants to bring about, in this Ribu Gita, Brahma illai. One of the statements, Vedam poi, Shastram poi, Idiyasamum poye, Shivanum poi, Vishnum poi, Brahma Mahapoi, Vidyapoi. Then they say, no, therefore reject. Ultimately, what is mine? That which is searching for that, that inner being is the only reality. There is nothing outside you. This is what Vedanta tries to come to. Understand? And this is a dangerous path. It is a highly slippery path. And not only that, Appavum illai, Ammavum illai. Rejecting everything. Ultimately, you are only reality, and whatever you see around, they are all mere dreams, is a Maya. And the extreme position was arrived at by the Buddha as a Surya. This is one path, but they were all regarded. They were not brushed aside, because the greatest thinkers gave respect to that. But in Siddhanta, we call it a Siddhanta is the fruition of Vedanta. The Siddhanta, whether, because in all Siddhantas there will be a God. Vedanta rejects God and Siddhanta accepts God. And Krishna, since he accepts the concept of God, it is more on the side of Siddhanta rather than Vedanta. Have I made the point clear? Anything which accepts a God, whether he is a creator God or not, we need some fulcrum, we need something to lean on, because mankind has not evolved so far to the level of accepting a universe without a creator God and all that. And so we are still, mankind is in childhood. Mankind is in its childhood. Therefore, we have to have either God or as a substitute a Guru. Guru our, and this concept of Guru was very much emphasized by all the, for example, Tirumala's Tirumandiram is very much, what you call, like Bhagavad Gita. Whenever I have doubts in Bhagavad Gita, I go to Tirumandiram, it gives clarity. And whenever I have some doubt in Tirumandiram, I go to Bhagavad Gita, it gives clarity. And this is the background of India. India has arrived at various conclusions. Which is to choose is very difficult. Therefore, they say, whichever the family you are born in, and whatever that family is, you are destined by destiny to be there and to blossom. Therefore, if jasmine has a white color and a flavor of its, rose has its own flavor. The rose need not try to imitate that and that. In the course of which, after the development, ultimately all will converge to a point later, not intellectually, but intuitively. And this is one of the background we have before going to see Ralph Waldo Emerson. This Emerson, before reading Emerson, we have to see two things. One, the evolution of Christianity. He was a very pious Christian, having had his education in one of the Harvard College School of Divinity, and got the first rank, very original thinker, and later he became a preacher in a Unitarian church. And he had a lot of questions. The question whether Jesus is a God, unnecessary question. Okay, தெய்வம் என்றால் தெய்வம், வெறும் சிலை என்றால் சிலைதான். We have come to the conclusion. India is the safest place for this what you call philosophical discourses. Whereas West, for everything they have a scientific yardstick. Here we don't bother about it. Because when they dug here, they found out a statue of in Madurai. That was of Buddha. The local people didn't know about that Buddha. Not they bothered to know about him, not necessary. They thought he's a Muni. He's a Pandi Muni. And they introduced a big, the fellow was very smiling and sleeping. Muni will not smile. But in North India is called Sankhya Muni. The word is the same. It's a Sanskrit word. In North India, a Muni is one, he is a Mauna. He is known for inner peace, not violent. He is very peaceful and he has absolute control upon himself. In his presence, you also get the same wavelength. You also get the peace. So Buddha was full personification of peace. Therefore, he belongs to the Sakya clan. Therefore, he was called the Sakya Muni. Somehow our people also understood he is a Muni. But their concept of Muni is a violent fellow. Muni Muni, if he looks at it, he brings about destruction. And he has to be having a big mustache. Therefore, what they said, no, Muni will not smile. Therefore, he made him actually a mustache in cement and brought about a turban upon his head. And made the closed eyes are open. He is staring like me like that. And if you go there today, you can see the body is that of Buddha. The head is not, it is transformed into Muni. They are all very happy. And that poor man, he said, don't kill animals. But here every day they are killing at least half a dozen. He is helplessly standing it. Rationally speaking, this is wrong. But if you go and tell them, he is Buddha, we don't bother about that name. We don't want that name. He is our pandimony. Telling immediately the whole, they start. He gets their possession, they shriek and they dance and all that. So that is India. If Jesus were to come here, he will be given a bigger moustache. Okay. All women will be possessed by him. Okay. India is a very, and no, we are telling it as a joke. This requires enormous balance of mind. Tell me. This requires enormous. What we have been brought up, the way we have been brought up to accept things in our own way, we are comfortable with that. This is the Indian way of looking at things. Well, this background, without this background, if you borrow anything from India, Westerners, they will not be on the right track. They are likely to become off the track. Have I made it clear? Why I am telling you now? Book Jesus Christ, one of the greatest personalities in the world history. You can say one or two or three. One is Jesus, second is Buddha and Mahavira. These are all persons who had absolute control upon themselves. These two people in India, they denied God, but Jesus said, my Father in heaven. Those who see me, see my Father in heaven. Thereby he was a different personality in the Western tradition. He is a highly enlightened personality. What is enlightenment according to Indian vision? He was that, no doubt about it. Jesus Christ is fully enlightened person. Therefore, I used to compare him with Lord Krishna. What is Krishna to me? Jesus is for those who believe in him. Understand? Because otherwise, at the time of crucifying and driving nail on him, no one can pardon the people who are doing it. Oh Father, forgive them. They know not what they are doing. To say that, actually this is a very, what you call, exhilarating. And Jesus repeatedly was telling, and all of us are thinking of going to heaven, but that man wanted to bring the heaven on earth. Let the kingdom of heaven come on earth. And the mankind, the progress that has been made as a student of history, I am a Hindu, I am a Brahmin, all my things I have to tell, but still, as a student of history, when I see that one man has brought about a great change, revolution, moral revolution all over the world, but man is different, and the same followers of Christ brought about the First World War and Second World War, which will not have acceptance from Jesus Christ at all. Therefore, seeing their reactions, we should not think about it. But how that Christianity began to develop is we are going to see. First of all, Ralph Waldo Emerson is one of the greatest thinkers. In 1803, when he passed away, Swami Vivekananda was only 19 years old when this man passed away. And Swami Vivekananda, he was an agnostic. He questioned the existence of God. He questioned the existence of soul, what happens to it, does it migrate, is there heaven and all that. Ultimately, fortunately for him, he was able to meet with a man called Ramakrishna, looked half mad, or at times he will be totally mad because he will be tuned with the absolute. And such people on the street who didn't have the benefit of education, especially the Western education, and their roots are very strong in India, and that man was able to answer the questions of this Swami Vivekananda, the Narendra becomes, and the rest of the things, the part of history, which I did not repeat, already you all have. That Swami Vivekananda later comes to know about Emerson. He goes to America and says, read our Bhagavad Gita. This man, he had to change his views. He had already had a lot of questions, doubts about Christianity, and he thought, he had found the right perception about Christianity through a book called Bhagavad Gita. Well, he read Bhagavad Gita in a translation without a guru. There lies the difficulty. Understand? Guru Villa can be called. There is a proverb. If you do, because you will, the same statement. Shiva tried to speak to the Saivites and they started writing it and the Agamas came into being. And there was contradiction between Agamas. Ultimately, Shiva thought, we should not talk to these fellows. These are humans are highly mischievous fellows. Each one is reading in his own way. Therefore, this time, when they come to me for asking questions, I am going to take a trick. So he sat down. They came, 4 fellows came, Sanaka, Sanaka, Sanandar. Each one had a question in his. For all the question he said, I have understood. Each one understood in his own way, and the 4 fellows came with the 4 different books, one contradicting the other. Shiva was defeated. Thereafter, what he did, he started dancing. You take it anyway. The people began to dance with him. That is reality. Now you forget yourself. If I speak, you apply your reason, and the reason takes you helter-skelter in all the directions, makes you more confused. I ask my students, they used to come to me confused. After listening to me, confusion will be was confounded. Similarly, any exposition, verbal exposition, leads to confusion, and similarly, even silence. Therefore, he stopped the exposition, verbal as well as, gesticulating and all that. Afterwards, he started dance. Now he is happy, and our people also. So the ultimate in the development, evolution of Saivism in Tamil Nadu, it reaches Nataraja, as the Puttan. We have one fellow here today, the name. When he said, his name, I thought I must tell about this evolution of the idea here. Therefore, speeches, it is something to be experienced, ecstatic. That ecstasy, and whatever you feel there, that feeling is divine. Sometimes it is momentary, it doesn't linger long. Sometimes it lingers for some more time. But whatever you do, wherever you go and whatever you do, that ecstasy, Anandam Brahma. The divine is we call it Shivananda. This is not Ananda. Speaking is not Ananda. Dancing is Ananda. Therefore, Shivananda, whatever you do, wherever you are, you have to be soaked in that, totally immersed in that Ananda, then you become a sage. There is no such thing as, Jesus said, love the enemy. And here we didn't say that word, because when once you reach that Ananda state, there is no enemy. Everybody becomes your friend. You see yourself in them and them in you. And there is a statement in Bhagavad Gita says, whoever sees me in all the creatures, and oneself in all the creatures, and all the creatures in oneself, he is the greatest jnani. And this jnana, or the wisdom, he has been the goal of the Indian quest for the ultimate reality. So with that, this man, he studied Christian philosophy, theology and all that, had an idea about it, and then started practicing. Every day he has to go to the pulpit and give his discourse, sermonizing the people, but himself having doubt. And among them, one thing he was very much disagreeing with, that was to say, at the time of his passing away, just before his crucifixion, Lord Jesus, I used to call him Lord Jesus. If I can have to call Krishna as Lord Krishna, I have to call Jesus as Lord Jesus. When once you read them or go to meditation, see them, there is no discrimination whatsoever. We have no yardstick or a balance to weigh who is a weightier and not that. That is one thing we have to cultivate, because that has not been said here. Always our side and your side, as though no. there is no such thing. All are within us. That with that feeling, he went to the. He told his disciples during the time of his last supper. So one of the finest moments in his life. He was very sure next day he was going to be crucified. He was aware about that. Because a day before he had gone to Gethsemane nearby and he had knelt and he told the Lord, Lord, what I have been destined to do, that's going to happen. Give me the courage to withstand. Make me the bold enough. Understand? And the angels come and they talk to him. All these things, he is no doubt about his, evolution of his spirit to the highest cosmic level. How was it possible? He was a Jew, but what he accepted, where he had his training, Jesus Christ, was in a place, a group of people called Essenes. E-S-S-E-N-E-S. Essenes, that group of people. They were a secret group living far away from the the Jewish priest. The priestly class will not accept you to say anything other than what the prophets earlier have said. From Abraham onwards, Isaac, etc., whatever has been said by them, that is scripture. You should not go beyond that. So you will be provided with blinkers on. Already our vision is, it's not full. You are putting upon blinkers also. So religion becomes a sort of blinkers. You don't understand what's meant by it. That's the thing. This man became, at the age of 7, became a member of the Essenes. Essenes were far away from the human habitation in the desert, in certain oasis-like places, and they were exchanging ideas. They were followers of pre-Sankara's Vedanta from India, which passed from India towards that place through Alexander the Great. If you see the history before reading the evolution of religious ideas everywhere, you can see some link. And already he was a student of Plato, Aristotle. And there has been another great man called the Plotinus. And his book Enneads, E-N-N-E-A-D-S, Enneads, it has come very much by himself there. The Enneads of Plotinus is called Neoplatonism, where they say God is not outside, God is within you. You are a spark of that great fire. Or they are used, the simile used by the Vedantins of India, that is to say, the God is a cosmos. That they call it consciousness. The super consciousness is God, divine. Every individual consciousness is a wave. Where do you have your origin? The wave has its origin in the ocean. It rolls and then it disappears. One is the birth, another is existence, another is subverting. It is lost. Again, some waves. Thus, this is the way they were able to tell. They were trying to translate this into the phenomenal figure. Because we are living in the phenomenal world. This is a transcendental reality. There are two things already I told you. One is phenomenal world, another is transcendental world. Whenever you are speaking about God and another transcendental reality, when you are bringing down to the phenomenal world of the language, you will get very much confused. Because that has been very clearly said in one of the books in Tamil, that's called Sivanyana Siddhya. Many of you might have heard, otherwise you have to read it. Sivanyana Siddhya by Arulnandi Sivacharya in the 14th century. It's a magnum opus. It tries to give explanation about that 12 sutras of Mekanda Swamigal called Sivanyana Bodham. And in the Sivanyana Sutra, Arulnandi Sivacharya, the book Sivanyana Siddhya. Siddhya Padichachana, that's one is fortified very much. You can meet with anything. No argument. Everything is full of experience. When you get the experience, there is no argument. Shivam Dan, Shivam Dan Shaktiyai Indrum. Shivan Shaktiyai Indrum, Shaktidan Shivanai Indrum. He uses the word Shivam. There are two words here in our concept. One is Shivam and is Sivan. Shivam is accepted as supramental consciousness all over the world. Sivan is personification of that consciousness. So they reject Sivan but accept Sivam. Therefore, here Sivam Shaktidanai Indrum, Shaktidan Sivatai Indrum. So one is the mother of this man. This man is the father of that lady. உவந்திருவரும் உணர்ந்திங்கு உலகம் உயிர்களெல்லாம் ஈன்றும். சிவம் சக்தியை ஈன்றும், சக்திதான் சிவத்தை ஈன்றும். உவந்திருவரும் உணர்ந்திங்கு உலகு உயிர்களெல்லாம் ஈன்றும். பவன் பிரம்மச்சாரி. பவன் சிவபெருமான் பவாய ருத்ராய நமோ நமகான்னு ஸ்ரீருத்ரர் சொல்லுது. பவன் பிரம்மச்சாரி. ஆண்மொழி சக்தி கன்னியே. அவள் இத்தனை ஈன்று உலகெல்லாம் ஈன்றவ யாரு? கன்னித்தாய், கன்னி. சொல்லிட்டு கடைசி வார்த்தை ஒண்ணு சொல்றாரு. தவம் தந்த ஞானத்தோர் இத்தன்மைதான் அறிவதன்றே. அப்போ என்ன ஞானம்? தவந்தரு ஞானம். ஞானம் must come through not reading but tavam. Tavam means observing fast regulations, waking up early in the morning, going to the solitude, sitting silently, drawing all your senses inward like the tortoise. It does, repeatedly this tortoise withdrawing its head and the four legs, this is being used as an analogy. You have to withdraw them, focus yourself, the travel, stop all the external travel, searching for God. You will never find it outside you. If you start searching for God outside this skin, you will not find. You will be still, you will be confused, and you will be confusing others too. Turn inward. The journey is inward journey. Go inward, inward, inward. Ultimately, you are face to face with the reality, ultimately reality, that is Shivam. This is not only this. There they say, just before you merge with one with that, Shivam, there is it. There, another analogy they are giving, both in North as well as in the Upanishad. It is said, when you go inside, you will find there are two birds, Dvasuparna. Two birds are there, Sayuja Sakaya. They are inseparable birds. One loves the other so much. One is the divine, another the human. After some time, you will realize the little bird, the Atma, this bird tries to enjoy the pleasures of the world and consequently suffers too. All enjoyments has the other side of the coin. But that another bird inside, that's the big bird. It is simply looking at you and it does not react until you realize, this little bird realizes, I am none but that bird. Both of them merge into one. That day you get your full bliss. This has been said in Upanishad and in Thiruvandaram, Iruparavai. The same thing has been said very beautifully, lucidly in Tamil. But most of the people don't go near Thiruvandaram. Because there is a difficulty in splitting the words and seeing, otherwise you will be misled unless you have a. These are all the background before we go to see He was an invite. He had his ordination there and he was a priest. And when once he was invited to the same college where he studied to give a lecture, that's to say, what is the convocation address. In the convocation address, this man delivering the school's graduation address. In the process, in it, he proclaimed, Jesus was a great man. He was not God. Okay, very hasty, very hasty. And I've been there, even as a Hindu Brahmin, I would have different from them. Don't say that, sir. Then you have to define the word God. You have to define the word God. Everyone has a God within. He is asleep. Your God is asleep His God is awakened. Therefore, don't compare anyone with God. He said, he was a great man. Of course, he was the greatest man from our point. But he was not God. It shocked the whole community. He also declared, true religion resides within the individual, not in Christianity, nor in the church. That's right. True religion resides in you, that cannot be shared with others. Because my religion is different from everyone's religion. Religion is as many as there are humans. Not only that, my religion yesterday was different from what I have today. Understand? Whenever I am getting more and more experience by interaction with people like you, my perception of myself grows on. Therefore, it is not only, it has to be multiplied like this. As many people on earth, into every day they live, the number of days. Something like MC square. E is equal to MC square. Something like you have to frame a sutram for that, a formula. Therefore, religion is purely an inner thing, affair, not to be something like the relation between a husband and wife. It is to be enjoyed, never to be spoken of. How to look at that. That is, this example is not mine. That is, every scripture says, keep it as a secret, as the relation you have with your wife. It is highly secret. Because every day you get something new and new and new. If you read, to get more clarification about that, you have to go to Tirukural and Kamatupal. Kamatupal does not speak about the relation between, the physical relation between man and woman. That is not the purpose of that man. Everything is a metaphor. The whole thing is metaphorical. Therefore, before going into a subject or a scripture or a book, we have to train ourselves properly in that book. And now next one. Then another statement that might have enthused the previous statement of Jesus. Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson telling Jesus is not a God. He is a great man of God, but not God. Might have enthused many of the non-Christians. Okay. Further, this man, you must know about him. His name is Arnold Toynbee. This man recently passed away in 1975, and he has written 14 volumes on the world history. It is called A Study of History. If there are 4 books to be read compulsorily by everyone, I will say this is one among the 4. Okay. Other books I will recollect and tell you. This is one of the important books where, and the evolution of cultures, and its origin, evolution, disintegration, and taking different forms, how civilizations get. Civilization is his focal point. And all by interaction, civilizations are coming, and ultimately he says, if Jesus were to come today, the whole world will recognize him except the Christians. And the Christians will try to crucify him for the second time, telling you are atheist. Understand? The whole world will understand, but they will not, because they have the blinkers like that. This is what one of the statements. Another statement by him, it is already becoming clear that a chapter which had a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending if it is not to end in self-destruction. If the whole world, that world is moving towards self-destruction, if you have to stop that self-destruction, your study must start with Western culture, and you must end up in Indian culture. He didn't say Asian, Indian, very specific about. He was a great admirer of Indian culture and Indian civilization. The human, at the supremacy, at this supremely dangerous moment in human history, when he was living, he was during the Second World War, he was the military advisor to the government of British government. Churchill very much depended upon his advice as to what to be done next. Okay. And now, at this supreme dangerous moment in human history, the only way of salvation of mankind is the ancient Hindu way. His perception of Hindu way. We should not be carried away. He looks at us that way. But let us close our eyes and think, are we as great as he thinks us to be? That is my question. Here in India, we have the attitude and the spirit that can make it possible for the human race to grow together into a single family. Arnold Toynbee, One World and India is the topic on which he spoke. It is very pleasing to listen because India is a country, we are like children. We are self-glorification comes spontaneously and we are glorifying ourselves that way. When somebody says like that, we feel like whistling. And again, another man is R.C. Jainer. He was a great lover of Vedanta. This R.C. Jainer was a great lover of Saiva Siddhanta. He was a born Persian Muslim, later converted to Christianity, the Catholic religion, and has made a study of all. And later he became a close friend of one man called Deva Senapati, who was the professor. Deva Senapati was the professor of Saiva Siddhanta in Madras University. A very great man whom Tamil Nadu has. I had the good pleasure of meeting him and sitting at his feet. He was a sagely person, very calm. The Saiva Siddhanta, what can be the best product of Saiva Siddhanta he was. And he was opposed by his own Tamil professors of that, not by his students. He was respected very much. And he considered on the line of Tirumular, held Vedanta and Siddhanta similar. This man, Jainer, for a long time, like every Westerners, was speaking very high, thinking of high about Vedanta. After meeting our Deva Senapati, this is Deva Senapati, many of you will know, as the son of Sengalvaraya Pillai. Sengalvaraya Pillai's work on Arunagiri's work, his magnum opus. It was he who made Arunagiri's all works so popular. And that family is totally dedicated to Saivism, and their perception of Saiva Siddhanta is very supreme, without border. Every one of us know we have a thought with border. We are now striving for a world without border. Not only the physical world, but the intellectual world, the spiritual world should not have any border at all. But every day we are creating a wall with a single brick, then we are making a double brick, then we are making it a current granite stone, and we are building on walls between us. And this Jaina, until he met our Deva Senapati sir, he was a follower of Vedanta, and he loved Saiva Siddhanta very much. He said, Saiva Siddhanta is the ultimate. It is the பிழிவு. அவர் சொல்லுவார், நம்முடைய இதில் சொல்லும் பொழுது சைவ சித்தாந்தத்தை சொல்லும்போது சித்தாந்தம் வேதாந்தத்தின் தெளிவாம் சைவ சித்தாந்தத்திரம் கிடைக்கும். வேதாந்தத்தின் தெளிவு. The word தெளிவு is repeatedly used by the Tamil scholars, Tamil mystics. The தெளிவு இல்லாதனால we are all confused. And the தெளிவு, சைவ சித்தாந்தத்தின் வேதாந்தத்தின் தெளிவாம் சைவ சித்தாந்தம். This is by it Siva Prakasam is the work, the பாடல் number 7. அதை படிச்சு பார்க்கலாம். So this man said the tolerance of Hinduism was recognized by Toynbee, who on many occasions contrasted the exclusivity of the Jewish religion, because Jews said we are the chosen people. Only Jews can go to the heaven, not others. And since Jesus Christ differed from the priestly class of the Jews, they said this fellow will not go to heaven. Understand? They said, if you want to pardon, you can pardon the murderers and robbers, but not this fellow. He says he is the Son of God. Crucify him. That was the type of people they were. They are called the Pharisees. The Pharisees were the priestly class. Priestly class will be everywhere like that only.
Okay, this narrowness comes very spontaneously to that. Okay. But this man, and he said, they said, Jews said, still telling, we are the chosen people. Until, they started questioning the, helpfulness of God. God has said quite often in Old Testament that I will come to your rescue, I will even stop sun and all that for you. But that didn't happen during that, Austerlitz. That great calamity was brought about on the Jews. And thereafter they started questioning, is God dead? Number of books came like that. Is God dead? Or is he mad? One fellow said, no, he is both. He became mad and he is dead also afterwards. Then he forgot about that fellow. So all these mind going this way and that way happens there because of tragic situation. But in India, invasion after invasion. But still we are very happy. That's why we are ready to accept any concept as our own. Because already Allah will get away with. That's right. So we are very happy about accepting integral vision is part of Indian culture. Divisiveness is a disease we have acquired from others. Therefore, be an Indian in your attitude. So he says, Jewish religion based upon the Jewish belief that the Jews are the chosen people with the large tolerance of the Hindus and Buddhists. He used to compare their exclusiveness and the inclusiveness of the Hindus. And this attitude is inherited both by the Christians and the Muslims. Hence, their lamentable record. In the modern world, the lamentable record of divisiveness has come from the Jewish origin. That is one of the theses of Arnold Toynbee, R.C. Jenner said it here in Madras, in one of the lectures we said that. Well, but now we will go to see next one, please. Yeah, evolution of the Christian doctrine. Can it make it bigger? Is there any scope for that? Jesus. This I typed 4 days back. Today I made yesterday I made some addition to that. Don't try it. And please excuse me, this knowledge of the evolution of Christianity is a must for every one of us. Every one of us must know. And then you have to apply the same to the evolution of your religion. Each one will be having your religion, how it evolved, you have to think. I wanted actually them to see why should we disturb their sleep. Yeah, what is that? Jesus Christ was a highly enlightened man. Okay. Because already told he was a member of the Essenes. The Essenes were the Vedantis among the Jews, and the Vedanta spread there through Alexander the Great in 325 BC. 325 years before Christ, this Vedanta had migrated to the Judaic world through Alexander the Great, and Jesus a highly enlightened, compassionate mystic. He was full of compassion. And his life is a model for every one of us. He was, on the one hand, his mind was hooked with the heaven, the Father in heaven. Another, he had utmost concern for the downtrodden, especially those who were suffering. A man, the like of which you can very rarely find in history. Very rare, very rare. All through, you cannot see Jesus Christ having gone to a synagogue and kneeling and praying. Once he went to drive the people out, the moneylenders out of that. You don't spoil my father's home. So telling he wept. It's the right thing he did. Only once he became very angry about it. Otherwise, he was always moving in the hot sun of the desert from southern extreme to northern extreme and curing all the people of their illness He thought God had given him the power to cure others, and that he was doing and didn't expect anything even for thanks. And all throughout he was very humble. Whenever somebody got cured and came and thanked him, he said, "Don't thank me. This is what I appreciated very much in him." Repeatedly, your faith has saved you, not I. Who will say that? Who will say that? It is as great as forgiving the people who are crucifying him. No? It is your faith. And he used to say, faith can move mountains. Later, Muhammad the Prophet also repeats the word faith. That faith is very, very important. And now, as a copy of it or something, I do not know. When in India, in our Mahabharata, Lord Krishna was in Gujarat, Dwaraka. And some event is happening in Hastinapura, the modern Delhi. You know the different distance. There, a woman at the open court is disrobed. And she cries, "Oh my Lord Krishna!" And she was saved. Understand? So was the story. And then, after a week, all the fellows there ran to Gujarat to see Dwaraka, met Lord Krishna and said, "Sir, from this distance you saved her. What happened?" He asked. They told us, "How did I do it? Did it happen that way? It was her faith that saved, not I." See, great men take up responsibility for anything that bad has happened. But if anything good has happened to you, they say, throw that responsibility. You are responsible for your. Understand? That's very important, you know. Here, Jesus, a highly enlightened, compassionate mystic like the Tirthankaras, they are highly mystics. And the Buddha and the Krishna. This was included only yesterday by this within life. Jesus and his immediate disciples had revealed very little in the way of metaphysics or theology. They didn't speak about any theology whatsoever. Like Socrates, their task was confined to preaching a good way of life. That's all. Jesus taught them the right way of living. Don't tell lies. And you have to see the Sermon on the Mount. I will say it is a must, a text for every children all over the world. It does not belong to Christianity alone. Don't put them within that fence and ignore. Take it. It is universal property. Mahatma Gandhi was very much shaped by that, and every day now I read at least a few passages from that Sermon on the Mount and Bhagavad Gita and Tirumandaram. All the three keeps a sort of inner balance. Outwardly I am mad, you know, but inward there is some balance in me that is being kept by all the three. And then whatever Jesus believed of himself, he thought he was the Son of God. That is the language he adopted with you to win the confidence of the people, that's all. Because he knew everyone is the Son of God. He used to say, not my Father in heaven, our Father in heaven. Therefore, you are all children of God. That is a statement in the Veda, Rig Veda. Sridmantu sarve amritasya putra. A young fellow. He was 10 years old. His name was Bharadwaja. His uncle had taught him things and he went to a corner, meditated. For 1 week he was absent to the class. Sometimes absentees in the class become brighter than others. You see, my experience. And that fellow one day came back to his class and he came earlier. He was waiting for others to come. And he called his uncle Priyapa. Tata, Agacha. My son, come here. This fellow was 10 years old. He calls, he's the man of 50. My son, come here. He was shocked. What has happened to this man? That is enlightenment. Understand? That is enlightenment. For him, big and small, great and small, all these things were vanished. Then he gave a sermon which has been recorded in Rig Veda. He says, Sridmantu sarve. Sarve means all the people. Sridmantu. Please hear, listen to me. Amritasya putraha. Ye children of immortality, listen to me. So goes that. There starts one of the earliest way of looking at the ultimate reality and sharing that. This statement was said by Swami Vivekananda in America in his maiden speech there. Sridmantu sarve Amrita Seputu. There are excellent statements both in Sanskrit and Tamil, one excelling the other. Which is better, we can't say. Okay. Well, and then, they were teaching a way of life. Whatever Jesus believed, they made whatever his disciples believed of him, some of his followers regarded him as a risen God. It is the people who thought, the common man thought, he is a risen God from the dead. After crucifixion, they said he came back to life and they considered him. Well, under Christianity, here I have emphasized the church, philosophy was deprived of the essential role, don't think, please obey. So, churches provided the people, the followers, blinkers. You have to simply follow that. You should not go beyond that. And nature of the reality, you should not question. And the church must only defend the contents of the revelation. Whatever has been said, they will be defending. They will not question, will not go beyond. This is a sort of obstruction or a restriction. And bound to accept the revelation, church also bound herself to interpret the concepts, borrowing ideas from first Plato. So the later theology, whatever theology you have in Christianity today, they are all borrowings by some thinkers, later thinkers, borrowing either from Plato or Neoplatonism and then Aristotle to bear the brunt of the new task. Next one, sir. Next one. The first fellow who gave a sort of theology to Christianity was Saint Paul. This Saint Paul was persecuting the Christians, and he was a powerful fellow, belonged to the Roman army. He persecuted, and he had persecuted so much that he had a remorseless of God. One day he had a vision. He fell down from the horse, and he thought that Christ had revealed to him, and he said, "Why do you torture my children?" That one, vision, brought about a change in him, and thereafter he resigned his job, became a wandering monk, went from place to place. Mostly he was in Syria. At that time, Syria was governed by the Platonic philosophy, and spoke to them with his epistles, the letters. He has written to the people that forms the earliest bedrock of the theology of Christianity. Therefore, Saint Paul, whatever he did, therefore today he used to say, in one of his lectures, Swami Vivekananda told to the Americans, ye Christians, go back to Jesus, go back to Christ. The Christianity you have, if Jesus were to come today, he cannot recognize anything in your Christianity except the cross on which he was crucified. That is the only thing he can identify. Rest of the entire Christianity is the production of Paul. It is not Christianity, it is Paulism. He was able to tell all the people, and a number of questions came, he was able to answer. It is nothing wrong. He was developing a structure like that. Then in the next 2 centuries, Christians thought, bounded in conflicting speculation like the Trinity, God, Son and Holy Ghost, what is the relationship between all these things, became a sort of intellectual exercise, and there was total chaos until a man came called Augustine. He lived 354 to 430 AD, the 5th century, and that was a time when our Buddha empire was here in India. And this Augustine, his father was a infidel. He didn't belong to any religion. He was a happy-go-lucky fellow, drinking, taking matcha and all that. His mother was a pious Christian. And this man followed his father more than his mother. But he was a great scholar. Sometimes, the roguish fellows also, they read more books rather than saints. Saint reads for elevation of the spirit, rogues to argue and defeat other people. Understand? And this Augustine was reading so much until one day he read Plotinus's Enneads. I told you, it is very much influenced by the Vedanta of India. There it says that God exists within you. And he came out with two books. One is the Confessions. In the Confession, he says, this is the type of life I led. Now I have a change of heart. That's a magnum opus. More than that, The City of God is another book by him. It must be read. I read it 4 times and understood only 20% of it. Such a very logical construction of theology, and there he mixes Plotinus and Plato and integrates with the Christian doctrine. That becomes, Augustine becomes the first, what you call, doctor of philosophy in Christianity. So, from Paulism, now Augustinism. They used to call it Thomas Augustinism, Thomasism. And the next one, this is Saint Paul. This is Saint Augustine, who was had a change of mind. Both of them had a change of heart. And this fellow was a happy-go-lucky fellow. One day he read that is we call his Enneads. Afterwards, he had a change of heart. He was measuring everything logically. One day he was walking on the beach. There he saw a child playing in the sand. This man had a lot of worries and problems in his mind. Theological problems. He asked the child, what are you doing? Every day I go there, you are doing the same thing. The child said, I am counting the grains of sand on the beach. I am counting the grains, how many sand grains are there. So we said, possible. Ask this man. The child said, if it is possible for you to measure the magnanimity of God, why not it possible for me to count the grains on the sand? Then he had a vision. The child, he said, in his confession, he writes, Augustine, the child disappeared from my sight. Okay, what he said, that was there very much in me. And thereafter, he went and joined Christianity, began to write quite a lot, and he became the first doctor of theology. Next one. Then comes, in the 13th century, Christian thinkers were drawn by Aristotle because Plato and Plotinus were speaking about the soul after death. But what is the type of life you have to live on earth, that was not spoken of. And that was spoken very much by Aristotle. Aristotle introduced the science into his theology. And thereafter, Aristotelian idea became. This was taken up by Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas, he effected the great synthesis of Christian doctrine in purely Aristotelian terms. Thereafter, he became the greater man than the earlier Augustine. Aquinas becomes greater than Augustine. And after some time, Meister Eckhart in the 13th, 14th century, with the increasing interest in natural sciences, what happened now? They were all taking whatever Aristotle said as a scriptural truth because he was speaking in what you call scientific terms. But when real practical science came into being, his science was purely speculative science like philosophy. When practical science came into being, they began to disprove very many statements by Aristotle. For example, one thing I will tell. One example. Aristotle, with firmness, he said, always women are inferior to men. He gives a number of reasons for justifying his statement that women are inferior. Why that much? You count the teeth. Men have 32 teeth, whereas women have only 30. And this was taken as a scriptural truth. Nobody bothered to count the teeth of his wife. Nobody bothered to count the wife as his children. Probably natural, you will be afraid of the wife. That might have been the reason. Okay. When practical science came into being, they took up the, what they call, cadaver for dissection, and they took up the skull of the woman and men and women and all that. The pelvis girdle is different. They had a functional. Understand that, right? That's because they had to bear the child. But otherwise, you can't see much difference in that. And regarding the teeth, both of them have the 32. There is no difference whatsoever. Then they thought, this fellow is guffawing. Thereafter, he became, I don't know, he was receding to the background, and then they shifted to, again, what you call, Vedanta studies. And Master Eckhart, he was returning to Neoplatonism. Neoplatonism is called the Platonic thinking of what you call absolute reality is in the heaven, and whatever you see on earth, this is only a reflection of it. Reality is in heaven. Okay, all you see here, human is the reflection. You are not human. The real human as an idea is there in heaven. We are in the shadow. This is a sort of a exposition of Plato and Neoplatonism. Salvation of soul lies in losing herself. The soul, how to get your salvation? And seeing, they said, no God can save your soul. No one can save your soul. You have to save your soul by dint of your own meditation, right living, and all that, focusing upon that. And this statement is very strongly said in Bhagavad Gita that your own Arjuna, you have to save yourself, and as a child can depend upon. For example, I have fallen in water. My friend's son comes and saves me because I didn't know how to swim. Next day also, if I fall that way, he will say, "Sir, this is high time you have to learn." If you will pass the third time, gone. We will be losing one of our friends. Happily too. Okay, that will be the idea. Therefore, Atmanaiva Atma Ripu. You are your own enemy. You are your own savior. You have to save your soul. This concept was Neoplatonic, Bhagavad Gita, in our Tirumandram. Everybody says you have to save yourself. You are your real guru. By meditation, you have to make all these ideas. Soul will be swallowed, and if you are so much devoted to God, that divine cosmic spirit will swallow you up, and it's a bliss. It's not unspeakable bliss. It will swallow you into your unspeakable bliss and glory. The exact statement is from not in Bhagavad Gita, but in Tirumandram. Why that much? Tirumandram is a difficult text. Yanahiye ennai vidungi, thanai nindra tarpaname. Karanam Arunagiri. Yanahiya kandaranubhuti. Anubhuti means nothing but, it is not anubhavam. Anubhuti means becoming the divine. Becoming the divine. The kandaranubhuti of Arunagiri says, Yanahiya ennai. In Tamil, there are three words, Yan, Nam, and Tam. They are highly loaded with philosophy. If you understand the meaning of these three enough, you have understood all the philosophy of India. To put it in a nutshell, Yan, Nam, Tam. Understand? Each individual is Nam. But Yan means the ego. It can't live without anybody's power. That most of us, like almost all of us, are dominated by that quality of Yan. That is a saturated ego. And I will be debating from that. Okay. And these ideas, his views were confirmed and prescribed by the church. He is a forerunner of Protestantism. So thus goes the Christian thinking from Thomas Aquinas to Eckhart. Thus it goes on. Okay. Next one. Then this is Thomas Aquinas. This is Meister Eckhart. This Meister Eckhart's philosophy and the Shankara's philosophy are very much similar. In India, Shankara came out with a Vedanta, which he rejected everything as Maya. This Mayavada he said for the contextual. The context was, at that time, Buddhists were coming with a concept of what is called a Sunyavada. There is neither a creator, everything. I mean, at least you can see, there is a God, the seer and the seen. The whole world is there. I am the seer, the seen. He said, the seen, not only the seen is not there. What you see is not there. You are also not there. You presume you are there. And Shankara asked him, he said, whatever I see there may be a product of my imagination. But there must be someone to imagine it. That is I, he said. Buddha said, no, that is wrong. And to explain it, it is anirvachaniya. Anirvachaniya can't be said in terms, you have to experience. The Buddhist experience is total dissolution of the self. And in Vedanta it is Brahman. Brahman means the absolute reality which is within you and wherever. And in Saivism it is Shivam, it is within you, outside. Understand? And therefore, these are all the positive ways. That is absolute negative. That is to say, I will, in a nutshell, the entire Indian philosophy can be reduced to three categories. One, the man, the nature, and God. Or again and again it will be coming around these three. The man, the seer. The seeing can be divided into two. The nature around you and the God. And you can classify all the Indian philosophy based upon this. Some of them accept either one of them or two of them. Only a few accept all the three. And among the religious ideas, the Saiva Vaishnava theology of India accept all the three. God is there, nature is true, it is not Maya, and you are also true. All the three. And there was no one who rejected all the three. If at all there is one, that is Buddha. He rejected all the three as illusion. Not only the external world and the God are your illusion, but the person enjoys the illusion, he is also not there. அதுக்கு தமிழில் சொல்லும்போது சொல்வார்கள் அதுக்கு வேடிக்கையாக தமிழ் ஆக்கம் சொல்லும் பொழுது பரமக்கன் எழுதுவார். ஓடுபவன் இல்லை, அவன் நிமிஷத்துக்கு நிமிஷம் மாறிக்கிட்டே இருப்பான். The runner is changing every minute. ஓட்டம் என்பது உண்டு, ஓடுவான் இல்லை. How can there be running without a runner? Then he said that it has to be an experience, they can't be said. So Indian philosophy is so intricate. In this background, we have to go next. Beginning of the American tradition. So all of you know, in 1492, Columbus reached there. In 62, in 1620, Mayflower, the Britishers go there. Then the revolutionary, in Declaration of Independence in 1776, in 1789, George Washington becomes the first president of India. This is the history of America. Then America is a new world. A new thought is going to come there. So people began to go migrate from. They are immigrants from. All of them are Christians from Iran to America. After going to America, they wanted to have the culture of their own. They didn't want to imitate their motherland, but the European. And among them, the foremost among them was this Ralph Waldo Emerson. You have to create your own way of thinking. You have to create your own Americans. You have to create your own literature. Don't be aping whatever they have done. So for everything they were making a new set. In that, he was so much totally confused about. And once Emerson made a journey to Iraq, because he had resigned from that church, has come out, was telling about there is no Jesus is a good man, not a God and all that. And he was very critical of the church's imposition of ideas. And then he wanted to have some change and went to Iraq at that time. He was advised by one of his friends to go and meet a man called Thomas Carlyle, who was already very much conversant with Indian philosophy. He was a great writer. His book on French Revolution is a magnum opus. All of you know Thomas Carlyle. This man went to Carlyle with an introduction letter and met him. He was with him for some time. In half an hour's speech by that man, in the course of conversation with a great man, bring about a great change. And there he got almost all his doubts clear. Ralph Waldo Emerson, sir, how this clarity is very wonderful. He smiled and he went. The next day, can I come tomorrow? Yes, come. The next day, both of them went and they were seated for nearly 2 hours. Neither of them spoke. Both of them had a cigarette in hand. Smoke, probably cigarette. The smoke will get me out. I don't know. Yes, this man was asleep. And we are looking at about and all that. After 2 hours, this man, there was given 2 hours time to stay. He said, the time is over, I'm taking leave. An excellent, enjoyable moment in my life. Carlyle said, that was my feeling too. Both of them were at the height of joy without talking a word. Understand? So initiation can happen not only by pouring water, anointment, or speeches, even maunam, the silence. That's why they are called, the manis are called mauni, muni. The muni, the word muni means their internal peace. When two fellows with absolute inner peace are there is some wave there which is inexplicable unless we have enjoyed it. And when he was taking leave, this man took a small book in hand. This will enlighten you further. And that was a copy of Bhagavad Gita, translated into English by one American Englishman. And then he got it, he read it, he got a clarity of vision. Ralph Waldo Emerson, thereafter, right from his age of 10, Ralph Waldo Emerson used to have his journal. Journal means every day, whatever crosses his mind, he used to jot down into volumes. Thus, there were, after his death, they found 3,600 volumes and stacked in 7 huge bureaus. All of them were written by him. And whatever he had written, he had to rewrite, see them again in the light of Bhagavad Gita. Thereafter, he started a club and many people joined him. That club is known as Transcendentalism, the Club of Transcendentalism. Among them, Thoreau was a great man, and Leaves of Grass, that man who know. I don't know the name. This book by Leaves of Grass, the poetry. Many poets. And thereafter, they revolutionized the whole thinking. But still, he was telling, Jesus is a good man, that's all. He didn't accept, he could not accept. That is the way I differ from Young Thomas Edison. Understand? Because everyone is God, Jesus also. If he had, everyone can become God. Jesus had become that. Understand? Because repeatedly in Indian culture it is being said, you have a spark of the divinity within you. You are not aware. Wake up. Wake up. That's why when they asked the Buddha, he was a prince, very handsome man and very charming. When he was walking into the near Delhi, the place where he gave the Pasarana, and the people flocked to him. He was so tall, very handsome. The very walking was so beautiful. A young boy came, and he was a herdsman's son. He had 5 or 6 buffaloes and bulls. And he came and said, "Sir, I love you very much." He said, "Why? You walk like a good bull." You walk like a beautiful bull. And even in his walking, his turning, speaking, everything was measured. That was the man, the Buddha. Understand? And you know, when the people, women forgot, he was so handsome. Are you a deva? He didn't believe in devas. He is an atheist in that respect. No. Are you God then? No. Are you son or any related to God? No. Then what you are? I am the awakened. You are not still awakened. That is the difference between you. You have a Buddha within you. Wake up. So that is Indian culture where they recognize the divinity in everyone. When the time comes, that's why when it comes, they ask. Yajnavalkya said, one may sit down to meditate for a long time, still we may not get. Some are fortunate, they get it. Chanakriyatam. In a second, a split second, they get it. Chanakriyatam. Some people who are very bad in their life, okay, but when they hear the proper lesson, in a second they get the enlightenment. Often the listeners get enlightened, the speaker never gets it. You will be going on talking. Okay. Well, the next one. Then Industrial Revolution came into being. From 1840 to 1861, That is the period. In 1861, Abraham Lincoln became the president of America, and Ralph Waldo Emerson. These all people, Nathaniel Hawthorne, you know the author of Scarlet Letter, and James Russell Lowell, Herman Melville, Moby Dick, author of Moby Dick, and Harriet Beecher Stowe, Uncle Tom's Cabin. They were all great followers of him. Henry David Thoreau, Walden, and Walden is a property belonging to Emerson, where Thoreau sat down and he wrote also, and all of them. And yet they met Abraham Lincoln and they said, we don't see any difference between black and white. Don't have slavery. So it is the impact of Vedanta. In Vedanta, not only all souls are alike, but India, the producer of Vedanta and Siddhanta, could not solve their social problem. It is still hanging around our neck like an albatross. Understand? We have to own our negative side also. All the while we have been speaking of only the positive side. Everyone has the positive and negative in different degrees. And they, after reading our Vedanta, they said, the same divine dwells, O Lincoln, within you and the slave working in your house. Give them freedom. Therefore, that freedom movement, he was hesitating how to take it up, because the southern countries were all, the southern America, they were all in favor of having the slaves. They didn't keep them, as it is being imagined. In the northern state, okay, they were, because of the influence of Emerson, they were speaking for them. And ultimately, they were given the freedom. And Lincoln's Gettysburg speech, all of you know, postcode and 7 years ago, our forefathers brought upon this continent. It goes like that. And ultimately, these are only 14 lines. The 14th line, the government of the people, for the people, by the people, shall never perish. That is how he concludes his speech. And all this was possible because of Ralph Waldo Emerson, and that he has acquired through, the British author, or like from Bhagavad Gita. Till the end, he had that Bhagavad Gita with him. And now, these are the places where this is the place where Waldo Emerson and others live, and this is the eastern shore of Atlantic shore, where they are. Dutch had colonies, French had colonies, Spaniards had colonies. The Spaniards went there not for philosophy or gold, but then they thought that a lot of gold will be available, and they thought there is a river. If you get a dip, you will run. Eternity, you can conquer death. Not only that, you can be eternally youthful, eternally more. That was the idea of Spaniards going there. They brought about a lot of havoc there, the Spaniards. But this is a special lecture. We will speak about that on some other bracket. Now, yes, now it's George Fox. Next one. And both the religious groups. These people were very much influenced by, especially Emerson was influenced by the Quakers and Puritans. The Puritans, they wanted to lead a very pure life. The Puritans viewed humanity as hopelessly sinful due to the original sin. The original sin comes from the concept of the death. As we have our Purana, so Jews have their Purana, in which that one fellow called the first creational man, the Adam, and his wife, Eve, brought about from his rib, and all that story goes like that. God created a tree, and within an apple tree. Very vicious fellow, the God. He should have kept quiet, these people know. One day he came and told them, don't eat that fruit. He brought their attention to the fruit, and thereby, they ate it, and thereafter, that is called the fruit of sin. And that sin, every individual is bearing on that. There is no redemption for mankind. That is it. It's a very negative view. And Jesus came and said, I have come here as an atonement, by shedding my blood as an atonement for the original sin. I have come here as a savior. He thought very much as himself as a savior. And this man, I don't believe in that Purana. Most of our Puranas are also believable historically. They are metaphors. This man did it. But the Quakers believe in the inner light. Everyone has an inner light. That is the path for emancipation. And the Puritans believe baptism in communion is essential. And the Quakers did not believe in baptism, did not believe in communion. And the communion, the last day of supper, that Jesus said, this showed you a piece of bread, this shall be my body, and the wine, this is my bread, this is my blood. And you inherit my viewpoint. He said metaphorically. You have to be as with a sense of sacrifice as. But these fellows started drinking lot of wine and said, "Oh, Jesus Christ is very agreeable." Okay, no wine bottle can be a substitute for Jesus Christ. No, Puritans here only men could be elected as a community leader, whereas Quakers believe strongly in gender equality. All these Quakers beliefs, with the Vedanta and the Quakers belief, they were very much alike, and Emerson was influenced by many things. And above that, Plato, number one, Plotinus, Vedanta, and the Quakers. These are all the four major influences upon him. Next one. Then his biography. He was born in Boston. His father William was a clergyman. This fellow studied in Boston Latin School, then Harvard University and Harvard School of Divinity, where he delivered a lecture telling Jesus is not a God. He was ordained as a minister to the Unitarian Church, and he married Ellen Tecker in 1829. When she died of TB, this man was totally shaken up, and he thought the whole world had fallen. He's a good fellow. This fellow was a good fellow, he thought. He thereafter, for nearly 3 years, every day he used to walk in the morning from his home towards the tomb of that lady, which was 10 miles away. Every morning he used to walk there, kneel before her, and pray for her, and then came. That was very sensitive man, was the thought-mongering person. That we have to think of that side of that man. Therefore, whatever he said, emancipation comes through me, through eating that bread, that communion, all these things, he rejected in total. Then, and now he traveled to Europe to escape from this agony. The death of his wife had brought about a great agony. An old man, when he loses his wife, I can understand he will feel very agony. Not young people in India. The Indians are, they have to take them with a pinch of salt. Okay. And now they traveled to Europe, where he met Thomas Carlyle, Coleridge, and William Wordsworth. All of them were thinking of the transcendental things. And on returning home, he began to lecture on topics of spiritual experience and ethical living. Ethical living and inner spiritual, and going to the temple and coming around, these are all not. நம்ம சொல்லுவோம்ல, சாத்திரங்கள் ஓதைகின்ற சட்டநாத பட்டதே முணுமுணுத்து சொல்லி பேரங்கள் முணுமுணுத்தா கடவுளை பார்க்க முடியுமான்னு கேட்டாரு. எல்லாம் சொல்றாரு, நட்டகல்லும் பேசுவோம் நாதனும் உள்ள இருக்கையில். So the shift was, they were not rejecting the God, they were shifting God from the external world. He is not in Kailasa. Your Shiva is not in Kailasa. You have to make your heart your Kailasa. Your Vishnu is not in Vaikuntha. You have to make your heart the Vaikuntha. Making it that is the universally accepted in a higher level. Then he moved to Concord. He married Lydia after a long time. Emerson spoke on the personal nature of spirituality. Next one, sir. Next one. Then what is transcendentalism? Transcendentalism, this is Emerson, this is Carlyle. He met them, their meeting and the correspondence between them has been brought about in their book. It's a very famous book. The correspondence is very wonderful. Till this man passed away, they were writing letters among themselves. They have the validity of the scripture because both of them were sharing their inner experience. It's very important. But what is transcendentalism? It is a philosophical movement that began around 1840 in America as it stretched individualism, every individual. Devo Devalaya, it is Sanskrit. In Tamil, Ullam Ullam Perum Koil, Umudanva Alayam. You are going to such a God to Kashi and Rameswaram. What are you going to see there? It is something like the mouse, little mouse had been to London. Yes, it has been to London. What did you see? There she says, pussycat. Had you been to London? Because at that time, the concentration of all the people to go to see London and they see the Queen. Okay. Therefore, a fellow from village asked him, Pussycat, have you been to London? Yes. What did you see in London? I saw a mouse under the Queen's throne. Understand? Wherever it goes, it will see only the mouse. Why should you go all the way there? I say, after going to Kashi, where is Italy Kadai you are going to search? You are not going to search for. Please think for some time. I have been 3 times there. Kashi, I could not see any god. I was able to see only Italy Kadai. Our Guru Italy Kadai is far better than that. Oh my God. What is he goes after going to Regula to see there? Why not? And my wife also, let us go to the mountain there. I said, if he has any concern for us, let that fellow come from that mountain to see us here. Understand? We are limiting the God somewhere. Your heart is unlimited. It is vaster than the external sky. That is called Akasha. The sky within you is called the Parakasha. Para-Akasha. Shiva, Parama Shiva. You know, the word Para means beyond. This Para-Akasha is million times bigger than the Akasha you are seeing there. All the philosophy, Indian philosophy, this is what is emphasized. We never want to go to that Parakasha inside, but we want to see this Akasha, Mars, we want to go land there. Understand? Do it. Scientific pleasure it will give you. That's an achievement, of course. We don't deny. But what is most important, a journey to the Parakasha, which is within, and which is 1,000 times or million times bigger than that one. Now, test the individuals. Intuition is a test. Understand? Not puja. In this book, Rebukiration. Pushaigalam Puyada. Pushaigal? Yatreigal. Yatrai வேண்டாம். எல்லாமே வேண்டாம். சிவன் போய், விஷ்ணு போய், பிரம்மா அதை விட போய், எல்லாம் போக விட்டு, எல்லாத்தையும் நெகட் பண்ணு. கடைசியில் என்ன சொல்ல வராங்கன்னா, அவ்வளவு அப்படி சொல்லியிருக்க வேண்டாம். உண்மை உள்ள இருக்குன்னு சொன்னாலே, வெளிச்சம்னு வந்தா இருட்டு தானே போடுமே. அதுக்காக இப்ப பம்பு பிச்சை வெளியே ஆரம்ப வேண்டிய அவசியம் இல்லை. லைட்டு போட்டாலே வெளிச்சம் வந்து பார்த்தீங்க. ஆனா இவர்கள் இல்ல கொஞ்சம் நெகட்டிவாகவே சொல்லுவாங்க. பகவத்கீதா அண்ட் திருமூலர் திருமந்திரம். He gives them the positive. But where, he emphasizes an individual, nature and self-reliance. God, nature and humanity are united in a shared universal soul or oversoul. The oversoul is there all over and it is within. They are connected, interconnected. We think we are different from that. That is being emphasized by all the philosophers in India. Transcendentalism began to emphasize this Indian idea. Am I making it clear? Next one, sir. Oversoul is an ultimate spiritual unity that encompasses all existence. And now, oversoul, this concept emergence, source of inspiration, he has written in his book, quoting often Bhagavad Gita. There he says, this is Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, the 7th verse. Matta paradaram nanyate kinchidasti janajaya mai sarvamidam proktam sutre manigana eva. That means, nothing exists beyond me. Later he says, I and you are one and the same. That is why nothing is beyond you. Everything is within you. You are everywhere. Yesterday in that picture, I was here, Lucy. Where are you, Lucy? I am everywhere. Ramana Maharshi, when he was asked after your death, whom shall I go to? Asked one lady called Madam Talayar Khan. He was related to Tata's close relatives. That lady was very wealthy and he contributed quite a lot in renovating Arunachalam temple, Tiruvannamai temple. That lady had this man as his father-like figure. And whatever she had, he used to go pour to him. once he was becoming very old and he was sure he was going to die. He went and wept, after you, where can I go? And he said, where do I go? Now I am confined by this shell, mortal shell. After shedding this shell, I will be everywhere. This is the statement made by him. I will be everywhere. Wherever. Now you to see me, you have to come to Tiruvannamalai. Hereafter don't come here. Wherever you are, call me, I will respond. And this is what Sai Baba tells. This is what every great enlightened people say, I am everywhere. And yesterday in the Lucy I was seeing, there she said, where are you, Lucy? I am everywhere. Understand? This idea is a very one of the most. This here, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, Mat Sarvam Pravartate. Everything has its origin in me. They exist in me, and they disappear in me. And here the word me has to be substituted by you are me. I and thou are one. Because in the next chapter he is going to say, Vrishtinam Vasudevam. Who are you, O Lord? Who are you? Vrishtinam Vasudeva. Vrishti is the clan name. Among the Yadava Vrishtis, I am Vasudeva. Krishna, Vasudeva. Pandavanam Dhananjaya. I am among the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. He is telling that lie to the party, Arjuna himself. If I go and tell him, sir, I am Venkatraman, I am Vedachalam also. Vedachalam, sir, he is an impersonator. He is an impersonator, be cautious. He will send a letter to Dan Foundation telling, this fellow is likely to sign on my behalf. But Lord, there he says, wherever he is, and then again, another important thing, he began, Aditya, I am, they say you are Vishnu. Yes, I am. 12 Adityas, I am Vishnu. Rudranam Shankara, I am Shankara, the Lord Shiva, I am. Understand? Then he says, Senapadina, I am Skanda. Among the greatest generals in the world, I am Skanda, the Murugan. Understand? And then this is how he integrates all the different gods into one and says that one is within you. That one, first of all, he says all of them in me, and then he transforms that me, I am within you. Therefore, you are the pure and the end all. You need not go anywhere in search of the divine, because the divine you are. That is to say, that is what is been said now. Ullam Perum Koil, Uradamba Alayam, the Kalla Purigal Aitu Kalamani Vilakku. They enlighten you. This is the idea. Then I don't know. Then in the next verse, he tells in the 11th chapter, Arjuna says, Tatraikastam Jagat Krishnam Pravibhaktam Anekada Apashyatri Deva Devasya Sharire Pandavastada. Pandava till then, he saw everything is different. His brother is different from him. His wife is different. The Kauravas who are opposite to him, they are enemies, they thought. Now all of them are there in Lord. Whatever he has seen and seeing, they were all integrated in that personality called Krishna, and that darshan is called Vishwarupa darshan. Understand? Vishwarupa darshan is not shown by Krishna, it was seen by. It is not something to be shown by a superior person to you. You have the vision to see. That's why he said, Divyam Chakshu Dadami. Divyam Dadami Te Chakshu. I will give you Divya Chakshu. Chakshu means eye. I will give you a special eye through which you can see all your friends and enemies, you and all, one and the same. It is something like a ray passing through a prism, splitting into Vibjya. Are they different or one and the same? I mean, anything is clear? It is one ray splitting, and by this split, number of colors, multi-colors come into being. The whole universe is a product of a division of the one, and liberation is the unification of all into one. That is the message. Next one, and then self-reliance. The self-reliance, he quotes this verse. Uddaret Atmana Atmanam. You rescue, save yourself. Uddaret means let you save your soul by your own effort. Nobody can save you. This concept became the central doctrine of his self-reliance. And he says, you need not depend upon me. Krishna says to Arjuna, don't depend upon me. You have enough capacity to conquer the whole universe, and you can see them in. Next one. Previous one. And when asked to sum up his work, once Emerson was asked, he had given thousands of, every year he used to deliver more than 100 lectures. More than 100 lectures every year. And he was amassing a lot of wealth. And it was a great crowd. People were, riveted, and listened to him intently. And they had an experience. Ultimately, one day, just before, during his last days, he was forgetting one after another. This was a great transformation in him. He could not see anything as mine or others and all that. And he, at some moment, he forgot his own name. Then he used to consult me, what is my name? What is my name? I forget. This was happening in immersion. This is not madness. This is total, merging into this name. The person named like Emerson, not I. I am something more than that. This has happened in the case of great saints all over the world. He became very saintly. And now, once he was asked to sum up his work, he said, this central doctrine was the infinitude of the private person, man. The word man includes woman also. The private individual is the infinitude. But you think you are limited by space and time. The body and the mind are limited by space and time, but your real personality is unbound, boundless. It is infinitude. That is my central doctrine. This is what he said. Next one. We will Ralph one. He says, Ralph Waldo Emerson often used to say, I owed a magnificent day to the Bhagavad Gita. It was the field of first of books. It was as if an empire spoke to us. This is next. Another number of times he has telling very high about Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is an empire of thought, and it's a philosophical teaching. Krishna has all the attributes of a full-fledged monotheistic deity, and at the same time, attributes of the Upanishadic absolute. And Walden also he says in the Torah, in the morning, I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and the cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, in comparison with which our modern world and its literature seem puny and trivial. These people know. I used to, whenever I read this, as a student of Sanskrit, I am not elated. My complaint is, we didn't translate our Tirumandira into English. Had we seen, he would have spoken the same about Tirumandira. Understand? Again and again in my lecture, I put both of them together. Next one. Then, other people, what Einstein said about it, we did not say much about Bhagavad Gita. Next one. That's not that. Mahatma Gandhi also says, whenever I have doubt, I turn to my mother, Bhagavad Gita. I get immediate answer. Next one, that's not important. Now, American transcendentalism, that's not. We will go. Abortion, next one. Yeah. Emerson could not accept certain church doctrines. Two among them, the humanities fall, resulting from the original sin and all that. Well, that's also, we have already told about it. Next one. Yeah. In India, this is the concept all of us has. This is called Annamaya Kosha. What has happened? Number one. This is the external circle is called Annamaya Kosha. Then you have the Pranamaya Kosha. When you open the doors of Pranamaya Kosha, that's why Bhagavan Buddha said, sit down, watch your breath. Then the first door is open. There are 7 doors in Mata. You have to open them. Okay? And then you go to the Annamaya, Pranamaya. Then after concentrating and finding, you become a master of that prana. Then you can see Manomaya, your mind, which is running here and there. And after conquering your mind, you get into your intellect God, Vijnanamaya. Vijnana means spiritual, intellect, the intellect. Vijnanamaya. Then you go to the Anandamaya kosha. That is the blissful. After that, you go to the Jiva. Anandamaya, the Jivatma. The Jivatma, you can come there and see it. The Jivatma is like a little bird. And nearby, there is another big bird, which is called the Paramatma, or Sivan, or Vishnu. That big bird for you. When both of them merge, you become Shivam, or you become Brahman. Till then, the duality will be there. So, this inward journey, and ultimately, when you go inside the eighth now, the outside is full of darkness. This is Brahman, the Shivam. And that Shivam is there, darkly there in the center. So, you cannot reach him by the travel outward. The inward journey will take you to the ultimate reality. It's the central doctrine. This has been called in various terms in our Tamil, Kaduveli. Kaduveli Siddhari Madero. This veli is called the Kaduveli, Parakasam or Kaduveli. And Parakasam, and Buddha called it the Surya. Whatever be their name, ultimately the experience is one. Next one, sir. Then, Emerson emphasized the infinitude, union with the divine, as an experience is available to all. Everyone is entitled to have that experience. So, Jadi, very Jadi Karam, Chinna Jadi Karam, Padichave, all these differences has nothing to do with that inner journey. In fact, those who have not benefit of education, they can reach it quicker. And Satyarangal, I told you now, Attakalpa Pesumo, Nadan Ulirkail, repeatedly they were emphasizing all over. Yanahi and everybody, Therum Dana in the Darpame, Aranagirinada, and Akandarapati. Next one. Yes. Here, rituals, they dismissed, but ritual is essential. Let us be practical. Here you see, this man, Saint Jerome in the 4th, 5th century, was such a great saint. He was considered as a second Jesus. He was such a virtuous man. Those who went to him with their problems sat before him, and Jerome used to look at them with a smile. He said, "My problem is solved." People used to come back. Such a great man was Jerome, and he became very old, and his soul didn't depart. And was struggling to die. Then they understood there is something he is wanting. He wants something. They took that bread and they gave him that communion. He took that communion, filled out there. Understand? How can we assess its validity? It's contextual. As we spoke about this context. He needs that much. Here you see this little girl, what was her problem, pain, we don't know. But she goes to the church and they have the Eucharist. The Eucharist is the bread, the communion. And you see the face that speak volumes. That the inner experience is explicitly shown on the face. And you can see there. And I love these two pictures very much. And a Christianity without Christ has no meaning. Christ is a God or not, don't question. If you call him God, he is God. If you say he is not, he is not. But one who has attained that greatest maturity, he has to tell very carefully to the people that some people need him still as God. Understand? But you can become another Jesus. As Buddha said, there is a sleeping Buddha within you who can become a Buddha. So you can become Jesus, you can become Christ. That is what you should have said it now. And the next one you see, then, here I have Jesus. You can take him as a guru. Christian, for a Christian, I say, oh Christian, take him as your guru. And follow his feet. And here, why should guru? In India, they spoke quite a lot about Vedanta and Siddhanta, and in Siddhanta is a product of Kandaranabhuti and the Tirumandram, both of them are the product of Saiva Siddhanta. Whereas Bhagavad Gita is the product of Vedanta. There he says, the easiest way to realize yourself, surrender unto me. Surrender unto me. That is the Bhakti Yoga. Prapatti. Understand? That's called Prapatti. Total surrender. Here also here. Uruvai, Aruvai, Uradai, Iladai. Maruvai, Malarai, Maniyai, Udiyai. Karuvai, Uirai, Gadiyai, Vidiyai. எல்லாம் நீ இருக்க. இவ்வளவுலாம் நீ இருக்க ஜானி. குருவாய், வருவாய், அருள்வாய், குருவாய். ஓ முருகா, come as a guru to me and enlighten me because I am suffering from cataract. I need a doctor to operate. I can't get my emancipation by myself. Vedanta will say, you have to get your emancipation by yourself. Siddhanta will say, no, grace of God is essential. Therefore, all of them saw him as a Uli. God as a great Uli. But in Tamil Nadu, இந்த ஒளி வணக்கம் சொன்னவர் என்ன சொன்னாரு? இந்த நம்ம வெள்ளனாருடைய வார்த்தையில என்ன சொல்றாரு? என்ன ஒளின்னு சொல்றாரு? சொல்லி அவருடைய முக்கியமான வார்த்தை அருட்பெரும் ஜோதி. இந்த ஒளிங்கிற வார்த்தையை கூட ஒரு ஜோதின்னு சான்ஸ்கிரிட் தான் சொல்றாரு. அதுல என்ன சொல்றாரு? அருள் பெரும் ஜோதி. In North, in Vedanta, that is a jyoti, but does not give you grace. You have to save yourself. But in Siddhanta, in Tamilian concept, and Arul Perum Jyoti is not neutral. It is total compassionate because if I am suffering, if I have a thorn in my leg, I can pull it out. If I have a cataract in my eye, I have to go to a doctor. They saw in the North like a small thorn you are problem. Here, our people in Tamil Nadu were more practical. They thought it is not a thorn, it is a cataract. It is a rib broken. You need a doctor. Understand? Therefore, then Thirumandaram is very much known for among many things. Most important is Telivu. What is Telivu? No turbulence. Nothing muddy. Everything crystal clear. Telivu, Guruvin Guru. Thirumeni Kandal. Or a Patale Guru. Guru, you go you go to somebody. He may be an attained man or not. If you consider he is the most attained, he will save you. Definitely you will get saved. Understand? It is not in that the way in which you see elevates. Guru Telivu Guruvin Thirumeni Kandal. Teliva Paraka. Don't analyze him. Telivu Gurumeni Thirunamam Sheppal. Our Perachuna. Telivu Guruvin Thiruvarthai Ketta. தெளிவு குரு சிந்தித்தல் பாருங்க ஒன்றும் முடியலன்னா சிந்தனை பண்ணுங்க. So Jesus as a guru is essential for emerson, though not for emerson, for other people. Understand? He may have transcended that level, but here they are telling these things for the common people. And next one. Okay, thank you so much.